Our first artist from Two for the Show is Becky Tubbs, a fifth-generation Texan. Becky currently resides near Anson, where she and her husband, Bill, farm and ranch. Becky commented on her unique art studio.
10 or so years ago, I decided that I could really concentrate on art full time, so I started looking for a studio and found this old barbershop in Anson, and my husband was kind enough to move it out here to the country for me, and I've enjoyed it so much because it lets me walk off from the mess and come back to it, and I just love the smell of the studio. I love the paint, and it's my playhouse.
Becky talked about some of the techniques she used in this show.
Let me show you this one. This is one of my acrylic collages. I like to take old 30s, 40s, 50s magazines and find some collage pieces to use and incorporate along with my art. So this is one of my collage pieces. Recently I've been doing a series on acrylic paintings, and I use paper circles in connection with the acrylic paintings, and I've done a whole series of these, and this is one that'll be in the show.
Becky also discussed how her family influenced her love of art.
I guess I knew I was going to be an artist from the time I was 11 or 12 years old. Several members of my family were artists. My mom was so creative. She didn't have any art supplies, but somehow she came to have 2 or 3 or 4 little small tubes of oil paint. She didn't have any canvas, she didn't have any brushes, but she took some fabric and she took a wooden matchstick and made a brush out of the wooden matchstick and painted this little picture. That so impressed me that, you know, if you've got that desire to create art, you're not going to let anything stand in your way. You can come up with a way to produce that art. And I still have this little painting that she did.
In Becky's artist statement, she says, "Representational art has always been my style, but recently I realized I must use different approaches to convey more accurately what I wanted to say. No matter what the method of application, I have a consuming desire to simply make art. Art is personal and preference is personal. As an artist, I hope to share my experience of imagining and creating with the viewer." Our next artist is Marion DeBerry. Though Marion was born and raised in Kansas, she has spent the past 50 years as a Texan, and has spent many of those years here in her home on the southwest side of Abilene.
Now, I work in a small studio that's actually, you'd say, a laundry room and a mud room. There's not a lot of room there, but it's enough. I have a lot of things stored there. I don't really work very fast, so it's okay. I can start something and let it dry and walk back through and say, look at it, and oh, I want to change this or I want to do that, and I'll stop and paint a little while. And it works for me. I'd like to have a larger studio, but at this point in my life, I don't really think it's necessary because I seem to get things out of it like it is. So.
Marion discussed how she became interested in art.
In 2nd grade, I won a contest, which inspired me, and then all through grade school, when I was going to school, you got comments on your grade cards, and nearly every one of my grade school teachers put little things about she should pursue art. And so that's kind of, and plus I loved doing that type of thing. And when I grew up in Kansas, and I can remember we'd go to my grandmother's house or somewhere, and I loved the look of the wheat fields. I just thought they were gorgeous, and I always thought, oh, I'd like to paint those. And never have, but at that time that was what really made me want to be an artist.
Marion also described her means of inspiration.
I paint mostly with photographs. You can see these aren't exactly what I'm doing, but I use them just for ideas to start, and that's basically the way I get ideas. I don't have a theme to my painting. I just whatever interests me, and I take a lot of photographs while I'm on vacation.
Marion described one of her signature techniques called
normally,
batiking.
When you're doing batiks, you put this is done on a real thin paper. It's called rice paper, and we put the design on with a pen. And the first thing you do is use this hot wax wherever you want to keep the lights. And then layer by layer, you put color on. The lightest first, then cover it with wax. It's not a fast process. You have to do it layer by layer, so it takes a while. You just keep doing that till you get it all covered. And the last process, you put wax over the whole thing, let it dry overnight, take it out and crumple the whole thing up so that there's little cracks all over the wax. Then put another color, and usually that's in a medium value, over the whole thing that you think might tie the whole thing together. And it looks terrible before you start to take all the wax off. What's fun about it is you never know what you're going to get. I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen when you take that wax off, and so that's kind of the way I do the batiks.
Marion discussed how she is a self-taught artist.
Made me want to be an artist, and like I said, I never did really have the chance to take art in school. I started ordering books from the Northlight Book Club, and I probably have half of what they'd ever offered. I've ordered so many, and really have learned a lot from them. I go back, sometimes I'll read a book and I think, oh, I'm not getting much out of this, and maybe later, another year later or so, I'll pick it up and think, oh, I didn't really realize that was that good. So, you know, you change as you go along, and I do keep going back to some of the older books and finding things that I'd either forgotten or it seems new to me at the time.
In Marion DeBerry's artist statement, she says, "I'm not sure what my style of painting should be called. None of the isms seem to fit. I will call it eclectic, i.e. a wide range of styles and approaches. What I paint are things that are important or have had an impact in my life at one time or another. How I paint would be my personal vision of how those things would be interesting to someone viewing them. I hope that everyone seeing the show will find something they will enjoy."